Hi, everybody. My name is Carl Darden, and I'd like to welcome and thank all of you for joining us today on Navy Sports Central. I'm your host, and this is the official podcast of the Navy Sports Nation, where we take a deeper dive into Navy sports. We are well into the fall sports season, and that means we've got quite a bit to cover today. Unless you've just crawled out from under a rock, you know that the football team is off to a 6-0 start, but things are going to get much tougher from here. Of their 6 remaining opponents, one of them, South Florida, is still undefeated in conference play, and 2 are ranked. So we're going to take a look at how the team has performed through the first half of the season and then assign some midterm grades to the offense, defense, and special teams. And we'll also catch you up on some of the other fall sports going on, so don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. All right, it's great to have you guys with us. Thanks so much for dropping in. I really appreciate you taking the time. It is great to be back after a longer than anticipated break, and I'll speak to that in just a minute, but I can tell you right now that getting thrown off schedule, especially during football season, has been a real drag. Now, those of you who are part of the Navy Sports Nation Facebook group may recall that I began dealing with some pretty debilitating low back pain about 2 months ago. There have been times in the past where I've had to deal with the occasional sore back or, also some back spasms here and there, but this was completely different. When I looked in the mirror, I noticed that my hips were completely out of whack. The right one was clearly tilted higher, and when I walked, I had this noticeable left lean to keep the pain to a minimum. I guess that over time, I developed this crazy muscle imbalance that had pulled my lower spine out of alignment. And finally, my back decided it had had just about enough. Forget about sitting down. That was out of the question. The only way I felt 100% comfortable and pain-free was when I was flat on my back. Needless to say, I wasn't having a whole lot of fun. And this is how bad it got. I'd be lying down on the floor watching TV or something, and then, of course, I'd get hungry. So now I've got to ask myself a question. Is getting something to eat going to be worth the pain I was going to experience when I pulled myself off the floor and limped over to the kitchen to fix myself something to eat? I can tell you that at least half the time, I'd just say to myself, nah, I'm good for a few more hours. And considering how much I like to eat, that's really saying something. But I'm doing much better now. I found this really good training program that does a terrific job strengthening the deep core muscles that attach to the spine. I do those exercises every morning, and they've made a huge difference. Now I'm no longer walking around looking like a question mark. Anyway, it feels great to be just about back in fighting shape, so let's get you caught up with some of the sports going on in the yard. We will get to our mid-season grades for the football team in our deep dive segment, but we can start things off by talking a little bit about water polo, women's soccer, and men's cross country. So here we go. Okay, taking a look at water polo, the mids are currently 15-7, and they also have a 7-1 conference record. About a month and a half ago, they defeated Air Force to hold on to the Freedom Vase. That was a pretty exciting match. It was 15-14. Mids got off to a pretty good lead and had to hold off the Falcons down the stretch to win by 1 goal. And right now, the mids are in the middle of a 3-game winning streak. And as far as individual players go, Kiefer Black, who is a junior, is the mids' leading scorer and also their leading points producer. He's got 53 goals on the season to go along with 42 assists for a total of 95 points. The conference championship starts in about a month, and the mids will be looking to get back to the finals. Last year, they were taken out by Fordham, so we'll see if the mids can't turn the tables on them this season. Moving on to women's soccer, they are currently 9-5-3 with a 2-2-3 conference record, and right now they're sitting in 5th place in the Patriot League. Their leading scorer is Marley Heaven. She is a senior from Rockville, Maryland, and she currently has, let's see what we got here, 9 goals, 3 assists, and that's for a total of 21 points. You recall when they calculate points in soccer, you get 2 points for goal and then 1 point for the assists. 2 more games left. The conference tournament starts on November the 2nd. Now, the one thing I will mention here is that in the annual star match against Army, the mids ended up with a 2-2 tie. And that one had to sting a little bit because they jumped out to a 2-zip lead. And actually, let's see this. Yeah, they were up 1-0 at halftime, picked up the second goal fairly early in the second half. And then Army got one back, and it was 2-1, going back and forth. And then right at the end, it was like with less than 30 seconds left in the game, Army got the game-tying goal. So that one went down as a tie. But the good news is they didn't take the loss, which was important when it comes to the Star Series, because what that means is instead of 14 wins to secure the competition this year, the mids only need 13. And so although it wasn't a win, it's certainly better than taking the loss. Okay, so that does it for soccer. Women are actually playing pretty well this year. So they're sitting fifth, but there's a bunch of teams that are kind of tied for like second, third, and fourth there. So there's a pretty good chance if they get on a hot streak, they could go pretty deep into the tournament and maybe even come away with it. Who knows? But Army's going to be tough to beat. They're pretty good this year. Okay, we're going to finish up with men's cross country, and the good news here is that they just picked up their seventh consecutive star over Army in their annual meet, which took place this past weekend. It wasn't easy, though. The score was 26-29, and just to refresh your memory, remember the low score wins in cross country because they just add up the points based on how the runners finish. Justin Mumford, who is a senior, took the individual title. In fact, he took charge of the race pretty much halfway through and won by a solid 15, I think it was like 15 to 20 seconds. Teammate Patrick Gandini was second, so that was a nice, strong start for the mids. And then the remaining points came from James Partlow, who finished sixth, Logan Flement, who finished eighth. Logan, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly there. And then we had Jackson Nguyen, who finished ninth. So those last two spots were critical because if an Army runner had finished eighth and then bumped Partlow and Nguyen down to ninth and 10th, the Black Knights would have won the meet. So congratulations to the men's cross country team on another terrific win over Army. They will be looking to defend their Patriot League title on October 31st at Lehigh University. Okay, that's going to do it for the sports update. Our deep dive segment is coming up next, where I will be handing out some mid-season grades to the football team, so you'll definitely want to stick around for that. As I mentioned before, we are halfway through the football season at the time of this recording, so I thought it would be interesting to hand out some grades, seeing how the brigade just finished up midterm exams. First of all, I wanted to give a big shout out to the Navy coaching staff. One of the things I've learned since starting this podcast is that coaching at all the service academies adds a layer of complexity. Not every coach is a good fit, and right now I think the football team is fortunate to have a staff that understands what it takes to mesh the goals of the team with the overall physical mission of the academy. So I just wanted to point that out as the mids head into the second half of the season, and judging from the teams left on the schedule, it's going to be quite a grind. Now let's get to the grades, starting with the offense. First up is the offensive line. I will say that this group has been a really nice surprise overall. The team lost some good experience last year when Brent Self and Connor McMahon graduated, but the reps that the underclassmen got during key games is really paying off this year. Ben Purvis at left guard, Cam Nichols at center, and Hoke Smith at right guard make up the core of the interior line, and they've been doing a terrific job. Purvis is a senior, while Nichols and Smith are juniors. And by the way, I didn't want to forget Sean Crowley at left tackle and Jalen Acevedo at right tackle. They are both sophomores. The only thing I would like to see tightened up during the rest of the season is the pre-snap penalties. They weren't that much of an issue over the first 4 games. It's only been the last couple that they've been kind of piling up. But those penalties have a way of really killing drives, and the mids aren't going to be able to afford that against teams like South Florida and Memphis, not to mention Notre Dame. On balance, though, I'd say the offensive line has definitely stepped up despite losing 2 key players from last year, and they are the big reason Blake Horvath has been so productive. Through 6 games, he's got 640 rushing yards, and that averages out to be about 106 per game. He's also run for 8 touchdowns. And as far as passing goes, he's thrown for 980 yards and 7 touchdowns while completing 64% of his passes. More important than all of that, though, is the fact that Horvath consistently makes good decisions. And there've been a couple of passes that have gotten away from him, but overall, his accuracy has really improved compared to last season. He does a great job of putting the offense in the right play. And what I like the most about Horvath is that he is really patient when it comes to setting up his blocks. On that touchdown against Temple that got them within a point, he waited for Ben Purvis to pull around to the right and then exploded through the hole as soon as Purvis sealed off the linebacker. Alex Tesco took care of his guy, and so did Cody Howard downfield. And in fact, nobody laid a finger on Horvath on his way to the end zone. So he is doing a fantastic job running Coach Cronick's offense. Okay, jumping over to Eli Heidenreich, looking at his rushing numbers, he's got 266 yards, averaging about 7.6 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. He's also caught 23 passes for 485 yards and 4 scores. In fact, the last touchdown he caught, which came against Air Force, made him the career leader in touchdown receptions at Navy with 14. Heidenreich is extremely productive. Anytime he gets his hands on the ball, he is a legitimate threat. Right now, he's averaging about 21 yards per catch. So I'm looking for him to really continue having the same kind of impact for the rest of the season. Okay, now let's get over to Alex Teska. So far this year, he's got 409 rushing yards. That works out to be about 6.4 yards per carry. He's gotten into the end zone 5 times. And on top of that, he's added 6 catches for 71 yards. And of course, the biggest one there was the 2-point conversion he caught from Horvath against Temple that put Navy ahead. And of course, the defense was able to close things out. Teska has been a little bit banged up this year, but I'm hoping the bye week gave him a chance to get all healed up. The offense is really going to need him over the last couple of months. But again, here's a guy who consistently comes up with big plays when the team needs him. And not only that, but he's one of the best blockers out there amongst the fullbacks in the receiving corps. The last person I wanted to mention was Brandon Chapman at the snipe position. He's currently at 152 rushing yards, averaging about 6.1 yards per carry. But it is his blocking that I find the most impressive. Chapman is listed at 5'9", 174 pounds, and that might be a little bit generous. But here's a guy who puts his body on the line. I've seen him do this so many times over the last 2 seasons, and most of the time he's giving away at least 40 pounds. That doesn't seem to faze him, though, and as a result, he's wound up springing Horvath, Teska, and Heidenreich on some huge gains. So I would like to see him actually get his hands on the ball a little bit more often. He made a really nice catch against Air Force, and whenever he gets his hands on the ball, it's pretty exciting to watch him run. All right, let's just finish up with some general stats for the team. Offense, in terms of rushing, they're ranked first in the country at 305 yards per game, and the red zone offense is ranked 11th. So that's pretty efficient there. And as I mentioned before, one of the things I'd like to see the offense kind of tighten up a little bit is the untimely pre-snap penalties, which put them behind the sticks and really create a lot of problems for them. So overall grade for the offense, I'm going to go with A-. I think that they've done a terrific job, but there's definitely some room for growth there. And I'm hopeful that these last couple of weeks, they've had a chance to really get dialed in and focus on this next game against Florida Atlantic, putting everything together in that game and seeing where they can go from there. Now let's talk a little bit about the defense. Starting with Landon Robinson, he is having another strong year. Currently, he is third on the team in tackles with 33. And he leads the defense in sacks with 5 and also tackles for a loss with 6. And I got to say that I continue to be impressed with Robinson's athleticism. I mean, if you guys remember that game against Air Force, in that last drive that the Falcons had, Jackson Campbell had deflected that pitch up into the air back in Robinson's direction, and he actually dove for it and caught it out of midair. So I mean, that was pretty impressive because he was in the process of fighting off a block at the same time. So again, great job by him and helping secure that win for Navy over Air Force, and just a phenomenal athlete in terms of what he's doing at nose guard there for the Mids this year. Next up, we have Luke Pires. He is second on the team in tackles with 45 and third in tackles for a loss. And he's also got a fumble recovery this year. In fact, he always seems to be around the football. And one thing that really illustrates this is the number of assisted tackles he's got. Out of his 45 tackles total, I think 30 of them are assisted. So basically, he's always around the football and always looking to make a big play. And then the third guy I wanted to point out today is Mark Anthony Parker, who is a sophomore linebacker. He actually leads the team in tackles with 52, and he also has 1.5 sacks. Now, I believe that Parker has a chance to add his name to what is becoming a very long list of great Navy linebackers. This guy's IQ when it comes to defense is really off the charts. I was listening to a post-game interview. I think it was after I want to say the Rice game, maybe. The question he was asked had to do with the defensive schemes that Coach Volker was running in that game. And he made a really interesting comment. He said that one of the things that I really work hard at doing is just focusing on my job and not getting bored with it. Because the second you stop getting bored with your job, you start looking to do other people's jobs. And that's when explosive plays can occur and you end up giving up a big score. So I thought that was some pretty good insight from a guy who's only a sophomore. So he's got a really big future here at Navy. And I'm actually wondering how high his ceiling is. So those are 3 players that I think are really excelling right now on the field for the Navy defense. And they do have some things to tighten up, though. As you guys know, they lost most of their secondary to graduation. So that's been a little bit of an adjustment, getting those guys up to speed, but it's coming along. I think communication on the field, especially when the offense shifts into different alignments prior to the snap, That's caused some problems on defense, especially coverage breakdowns, and it has resulted in some explosive plays. Coach Volker also mentioned the need to improve, some basic fundamentals as they relate to the different schemes that the defense employs. So we'll see how things go in the coming weeks. I hope that the bye week did them a lot of good, and that things really improve on the communication side in the last half of the season. So as I'm looking to assign an overall grade, I was going to say C+, but I did want to give them credit for the key turnover that helped secure the win over Air Force and really standing their ground against Temple with the game on the line. So I think that gets them to a B-. What I think they need to do to bring that grade up to an A is to get to the point where they are making the offense react to what they are doing. In other words, just becoming real disruptors again. That hasn't been the case as much this year. Certainly, I think they're doing well against the run. I believe they're ranked 45th against the run. So that's top third in Division I. So that's pretty respectable. And I did want to mention that the mids are ranked 20th in red zone defense. So that's really good. But it's the pass coverage breakdowns that have been giving the defense some problems. So hopefully they can get that cleaned up over the last half of the season. Okay, now on to special teams. And I know when people think this category, they think strictly field goal kicking, but we're going to talk about punting and also kick returning as well. Nathan Kirkwood's been Navy's kicker for the last couple of years, and this year he's not had a lot of opportunities, but he has made the most of them. Currently, he is 5 of 6 with a long of 48 yards, and that one came against Temple. You guys remember that one? He was looking like a PGA Tour player there, drawing that ball in from the right to the left, squeezing it inside the upright. But his only miss has been beyond 50 yards. And with Kirkwood, leg strength has never been an issue. It's always been the accuracy. And the one thing I can tell from this year compared to last is that his accuracy has really improved. Last year, Kirkwood only connected on 5 of 9 attempts, and I think he had at least one miss inside of 40 yards. So that was a little bit iffy. Coach Newberry has said that he feels a lot better about the kicking game this year based on Kirkwood's improvement. So that's really great to see. So now let's go ahead and talk about punting with Jacob Carlson. He is a sophomore from Plano, Texas, and he's currently averaging 44.6 yards per punt. He's been on the field 15 times this year. 6 of his kicks have been longer than 50 yards, and 7 have been inside the 20. So those numbers are pretty consistent with the ones that Riley Reithman was putting up last year. Okay, now let's look at the kick returners, and the guy I want to focus on there is Isaiah Bryant. He is averaging a solid 21 yards per return, and his longest has been 43 yards against Air Force. I think Bryant's got a real shot at taking a kickoff back for a touchdown before the year is out based on what he's done so far. I mean, last year he almost broke one against Army, and he's come close a couple of times this year besides that return he had against the Falcons. So you never know. We'll see what happens. As far as an overall grade for the special teams, I'm going to go ahead and assign a B. And I think that's largely due to the nice improvement that Kirkwood has made with his accuracy and also the consistency that Carlson and Bryant have shown in the punting and kickoff return games, respectively. So great job to the special teams. Just to kind of sum things up here, if I'm going to give the team an overall grade, taking into account offense, defense, and special teams, I think B+ is appropriate. The offense has definitely met expectations in my view. And granted, there's some things that can kind of tighten up there a little bit, but overall, I think you'd have to be pretty pleased with that. And then special teams, they've done slightly better than I thought. The defense hasn't been up to its usual standard when it comes to consistently causing disruption, but they have a lot of talent, and they just need to build that chemistry up that they had last year. So the way to do it is basically what's happening right now. I mean, there's no experience like game experience. Right now, the Mids are in first place in the American Conference. South Florida and Tulane also have no conference losses. So it's basically one game at a time from here on in. I'm curious to get your take on how the season has gone so far. What grade would you give the Mids? Let me know if you're part of the Navy Sports Nation group. Go ahead and give me your comments there. You can also leave me a message by clicking on the link in the show notes. I'd like to hear what you think. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a short break now, but before we do that, I did want to give you all a couple of ways to stay up to date on Navy sports. The first is to join the Navy Sports Nation group Facebook page. I've got a link to that in the show notes. Just click on it, answer a couple of questions, and you'll be good to go. The second way takes even less time. Just hit the follow button on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast right now. It can be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, it doesn't matter. Once you do that, every episode will be downloaded to your directory when it's released, and you can listen to it whenever you're ready. So please consider becoming a member of our group, and you can actually tap that follow button right now to show your support for the podcast. I'm looking forward to having you join us. We'll be right back. I'd like you to picture this in your mind. It's October 12th, 2025, and you're a member of the Navy men's golf team. This is the second day of the annual star match against your arch-rival Army. You are the fifth of 7 singles matches that are being played today. Following the 4-ball competition that took place yesterday, your team was tied with the Black Knights at 2 points apiece. The team that wins at least 4 of the 7 points available in singles would earn that much-coveted star. So far, things have gotten off to a good start. Your teammates have taken 3 of the first 4 matches to go up 5-3, with 3 more on the course, but there's still a long way to go. Coming off the 14th green, you find yourself down 2 holes with 4 left to play. You also know that your other 2 teammates still on the course are trailing in their matches, so Army seems to have the advantage. This match is extremely important to you. Navy has not defeated Army in golf since 2021. You entered Annapolis in the summer of 2023. This means you have not yet experienced the feeling of beating Army, which is arguably the most important thing to every Navy athlete. You did have that opportunity 2 years ago. As a freshman, you held the lead in your singles match, but it slipped away down the stretch and your opponent went on to win in extra holes. That resulted in the Black Knights taking home the star for the 2nd year in a row. As you make your way to the 15th tee, you try to stay focused. Coming back from a 2-hole deficit this late in the match won't be easy, but you've been playing golf long enough to know that things can change in a hurry. Sure enough, you fight your way back, winning 2 out of the next 3 holes. And by the time you and your Army counterpart are ready to hit your drives at the 455-yard 18th, the match is all square. The gallery begins to sense that it is this contest that will decide which team wins the star, because the 2 teammates still on the course with you continue to trail their opponents. But that's not what's on your mind. All you want to do is put the ball in play and give yourself a chance to close out this match. Your tee shot isn't exactly what you wanted on this challenging final hole, but it is playable. Then, things change dramatically when your opponent hits his drive out of bounds. After taking a penalty stroke, he tees his ball up again and hits his 3rd shot into the fairway. You punch your 2nd shot out of the left rough to the fairway, but you're still 120 yards from the pin. Meanwhile, your fellow contestant winds up hitting his 4th shot wide of the green. You follow with your 3rd shot, which lands just short of the putting surface. But you still have some work to do. After your rival gets his 5th shot onto the green, he misses his putt for double bogey. And when your chip shot stops inside of 3 feet, he concedes the hole, giving you the win. The feeling of being able to come through after being down late in the match is absolutely incredible. You helped the Navy earn its first star over Army in 4 years, and after shaking your opponent's hand, you go celebrate with your teammates. Luke Lombardo's one-up win over Army's Matthew Duke in the Mid's annual star match with the Black Knights ended a 4-year drought, and he did it in dramatic fashion, coming from behind to win in the last 4 holes. Not only did the victory get Navy on the board in this year's star competition, it also marked the 1,200th overall win against Army across all sports. The total count is 1,200 wins, 918 losses, and 46 ties. So congratulations to the coaches and players on the men's golf team for their terrific win over Army and for posting Navy's first star in this year's competition. That's going to do it for this edition of Navy Sports Central. Thank you all so much for joining us. Now, if you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit that follow button wherever you get your podcasts, and remember to get the word to all the other Navy fans out there. I would definitely like to get your thoughts on this episode, and you can share those by joining the Navy Sports Nation Group Facebook page or sending me a message via fan mail, and you can find that link in the show notes. And just a quick reminder, the views expressed on Navy Sports Central are my own and do not reflect those of the U.S. Naval Academy or Navy Athletics. By the way, the music used in Navy Sports Central comes to you courtesy of Audio Jungle. This is a great site for purchasing the rights to use the music from thousands of artists around the world, and those featured in the podcast will be credited in our show notes. Talk to you soon, everybody. Until next time, this is Carl Darden. Go Navy, beat Army.